And it would get the scriptures up. And I began to think on this. It's familiar to those who have read it. In Exodus 13. Exodus 13, verse 21 and 22. And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so as to go by day and night. He did not take away the pillar of cloud by day or the pillar of fire by night from before the people. We're going to go to Numbers 9, 15 to 23. And this is the main part I'm going to talk about today. I won't talk very long. Man, get you home in time for your Super Bowl parties. Now, the day that the tabernacle was raised up, the cloud covered the tabernacle, the tent of the testimony, from evening until morning. It was above the tabernacle like the appearance of fire. So it was the cloud. It covered by day and the appearance of fire by night. And whenever the cloud was taken up from above the tabernacle, and that the children of Israel would journey, and in the place where the cloud settled, there the children of Israel would pitch their tents. So when the cloud moved, they moved. When it stayed, they stayed. And the command of the Lord, the children of Israel would journey, and the command of the Lord, they would camp. As long as the cloud stayed above the tabernacle, they remained encamped. Now listen to this. Even when the cloud continued long, many days above the tabernacle, the children of Israel kept the charge of the Lord and did not journey. So it was when the cloud was above the tabernacle a few days, according to the command of the Lord, they would remain encamped, and according to the command of the Lord, they would journey. So it was when the cloud remained only for an evening until morning. When the cloud was taken up in the morning, then they would journey, whether by day or by night. Whenever the cloud was taken up, they would journey, whether it was 2 days, a month, a year. That cloud remained above the tabernacle. The children of Israel would remain encamped and not journey, but when it was taken up, they would journey. And the command of the Lord, they remained encamped, and at the command of the Lord, they journeyed. They kept the charge of the Lord at the command of the Lord by the hand of Moses. And I want to talk about just for a little bit, following the cloud of God. And when I read these verses, it kind of spoke to me. You know, there are moments in our life when we wish God would just hand us a blueprint. You might know what I'm talking about. When God would just show up and give you a schedule of what's coming next. Wouldn't that be nice? If God said, hey, guess what? You know, Kathy, for the next 6 days, this is what's going to happen in your life. And this is where I'm going to take you. This is where I'm going to lead you. This is where I'm going to guide you and give you a checklist. You know me. I like being organized. I like my checklist. I like my spreadsheets. I'm just geeky. I like it. I like it planned out. I like knowing schedules. And when it's not a schedule, it frustrates me. When it doesn't go according to plan, I get frustrated. In my mind, there is no excuse for not being organized. That's just me. I know some people, they thrive off disorganization. They work fine. That's fine. Their desks are just a mess and a pile of papers and junk everywhere. And if I walk into that situation, I would go absolutely nuts. That's just not me. Everybody's different. But I like knowing what's next. And we wish God would just show up with a timeline, a clear next steps document. But when God had led Israel out of Egypt, He didn't give them a map. He didn't show up to Moses and say, okay, Moses, punch this into the GPS. He gave them a cloud. The cloud was the OG Google. That was the original Google Maps, was the cloud. He didn't have, remember TripTix? Anybody, some of you young guys, you young people, you look at me like I'm stupid. I remember taking trips across the country, When I was in the military, we were stationed in Louisiana, we'd come back to Pennsylvania, and we would call AAA and get a triptych. It was a book. It was about this wide, about this long, and it had pages. And you would turn to your first page, and it would draw on the map how you had to drive. You get to that destination, you go to the next page. It's called a triptych. That's how you traveled before GPS. MapQuest. Remember printing out MapQuest? We had a map. It's kind of neat. And you had to actually read a map. We had this discussion at work the other day. I wonder how many people, if you gave them a book of maps, could travel across the country on a map. Yeah. But he gave them a cloud. The scripture said that we read, the Lord went before them in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. And the instruction was simple. When the cloud moved, they moved. When the cloud stayed, they stayed. Simple. Original GPS. Just follow the cloud. Just follow. That was basically God saying that, hey, I'm in the cloud, and when I move, you move. When I stay, you stay. How much simpler would our life be if we had that same mentality with God today? I'll move when you move. I'll go where you go. I'll do what you want me to do. And there's some principles about this that I want to get through today. And first is that the cloud is literally the presence of God, not just his direction. It wasn't just the direction, but it was his presence. The cloud wasn't just pointing to the way, the cloud was proof that God was with them. They can look up, they can see the cloud in the day, or at night they would see the fire, and they knew that God was with them. Imagine being an Israelite child walking through the desert, and every time you looked up, there it was, the cloud. When the sun was brutal, the cloud was there. When the night was terrifying, the fire was there. The cloud said, you are not walking alone. But as long as they could see the cloud, they knew God was there. Here's the thing. We often say, God, just tell me what you want me to do. But God says, before I tell you what's next, I want you to know that I am with you now. You've got to understand, before I tell you what I'm going to do, you have to realize that I am always with you. In Deuteronomy 31:6, he said, be of strong and good courage. Do not fear. Be afraid of them, for the Lord is your God. He is the one who goes with you. He will not leave you nor forsake you. I have to understand this principle, and they had to understand this concept that no matter where they traveled, God was always with them. I want you to understand this today. God is always with you. I'm sure their travels through the wilderness, the storms got nasty. Anybody ever been in a sandstorm? The wind kicks up the sand. And I can imagine they went through sandstorms. I'm sure they went through terrible times. I'm sure it was harsh at times. But they always knew and understood that God is always with you. Even when you're a knucklehead, God's with you. Even when you don't do it just for God is with you. Even when they grumbled and complained and blamed God, guess what? God did not leave them. God is not going to leave you on your mistakes. He's not going to leave you on your mess-ups. He's not going to leave you on your failure. He said, I am always with you regardless. I think about a child that's riding a bike for the first time, and when they're riding the bike, they don't worry about all the dynamics behind riding the bike. You ever teach a kid a bike? I'm sure a kid didn't look up and say, hey, tell me about the thermodynamics of the bike. No. What do they do when they start riding the bike? They look up and they look around and they try to find. It's not working. It's low. Okay. What does a child do? They look and they try to find the parent. Is mom and dad still with me? That's all they care about. Are you still with me? And that's what we do. They just glance back. The presence gives them courage. The cloud worked the same way. God's nearness gave them confidence when the path was unfamiliar. I'm here to tell you that whatever you go through, knowing that God is with you should give you confidence. Whatever you're going through, whatever you're about to face, I don't know some of your lives. I don't know what you're going to be facing. I don't know what you're going through, but I'm here to tell you, God will be with you the whole time. It will be with you the whole time. The second principle they had to understand is following the cloud requires trust, not control. This is tough. Anybody like being in control? I like being in control. But it required trust, not control. See, Numbers 9 in chapter 9 tells us something frustrating. Sometimes the cloud stayed for a day. Sometimes it stayed for a month. Sometimes a year. No pattern. No warning. Read those verses again. Sometimes it said, hey, it'll be at night, in the morning it'll start moving. Sometimes it'll stay here and would not move. Sometimes that meant there were mornings where Israel woke up ready to move. The cloud didn't budge. You ever felt like that? God, I'm ready to move. God said, nope. Sit here. At nights when they were settled, and there were times they were settled, they were comfortable, and they were finally unpacked, ready to settle down, said, I am comfortable now. And God says, okay, time to move. Come on, God. Come on. There's no warning. God says, hey, when it's time to move, it's time to move. And they had to get into the mindset and the concept that when God is ready to shift and move, they got to be ready to shift and move. See, the problem we have sometimes is like, let's be honest, we like being comfortable. I like knowing routines. I like knowing what's next. I like knowing where I'm at. I like being comfortable, but sometimes God shows up and says, it's time to move. It's time to do something different. It's time to move in a different direction. And they had to pack all their stuff up again and get it back in their camels or whatever and walk and move again. And the cloud stopped, so they had to stop, unpack the tents, unpack all their stuff, and not knowing when the next time the cloud would move. It might be tomorrow, it might be a year from now, it might be months, it might be who knows, but they had to depend upon. I mean, imagine if you're waiting in an airport with a boarding pass but no departure time. If you had a pass, you're sitting in the airport, you go down to Pittsburgh Airport, and you got your boarding pass but there's no departure time. You're sitting there. You're packed, you're ready, but all you can do is watch the gate. If you wander too far, you might miss the call. Last year, when the wife went out and the company took us to Florida, coming back, the flight was supposed to leave Destin, Florida, go to Dallas to Pittsburgh. It was supposed to be home by 1 o'clock. Cool. You ever flown? It didn't happen that way. Because of storms, because of whatever, we left Florida a couple hours late. We're supposed to go to Dallas, but halfway they came over and they said, hey, we cannot make it because of storms or whatever. So they rerouted us to New Orleans. We get to New Orleans, the plane landed. By now I'm getting a little hangry. I'm getting hungry. I need to eat because they give you a little pack of pretzels that doesn't feed a toddler. But we were on the plane, and they came across the announcement and said, we don't know how long we're going to be here. We're waiting for the storms to pass. You're allowed to exit the plane. However, if they call us to depart and you're not on the plane, you're getting left. Because we can't wait for you. So the wife and I looked at each other and said, we stayed. People got off the plane. Because by now, we left about 7 o'clock, before about 7. By now, it was well afternoon. You're hungry, getting irritated. But we said, no, we're going to stay. And we saw people get off the plane, and I'm calculating in my mind, what if they're ready to go in 30 minutes? Because I thought about getting off to get somebody to come back, but the lines were long. I'm like, But the thing is that when the plane leaves, if you're not on it, you get left. Some people got left behind because they didn't return. You know what? That's the way God is sometimes. We don't know when our moment is. We don't know when our time is. We don't know when it's time for God to even call us home. I don't know if you heard about this past week. It was Friday. That accident on 79. Just south of Cranberry on 79, there was, I don't know how many cars. Multiple car pileup. 18-year-old kid from Slippery Rock University was going to go home for the weekend in Pittsburgh. Didn't make it. Got caught in that pileup. 18 years old. You never know when God says, okay, it's your time. But I got all the time in the world. I can take my time. But we don't know when God says, okay, it's time to go. Remember the Left Behind series? Those left behind because they thought they had, listen to me, you don't know when your time is. You don't know when it's your time to go. And I'm here to tell you that we got to be in tune and be sensitive with God. That when He said, hey, it's time for you to go. It's time for you to move. It's time for you to do something. We might be ready for the next season, but God says, wait. Or you're comfortable and God says, move now. Faith isn't knowing the schedule. Faith is staying close enough to God to move when He moves. Faith is having enough sense in the presence of God that when God asks you to do something, you do it. We talk about all the time being used for God, being able to bless somebody, being able to help somebody, and being a Christian, we should be able to minister to people. But many times we get so busy in our schedule. You know, there's been times that, and we joke about it, people know I hate shopping. That is the worst torture in the world, unless it's Home Depot. Okay, we're good. I'll stay there all day. But there's times that when you're busy, anybody ever done a project, you got to run to Home Depot and grab something, come back. I'm going to go in and go out because I know where it's at. I think I know the store better than the employees do. But I know what I want. I go in and get it. But you go and get in, and there's been times in my life where somebody was standing there, sitting there, and God says, go talk to him. Come on, God. I got a schedule. I got a project I'm doing. This is my 5th trip. I'm getting irritated because I keep forgetting or getting the wrong size or getting the wrong part or something. You know, you've probably been there if you've done a project and God says, hey, why don't you just go talk to that person? But don't you say you want to be used? Don't you say you want me to work through you? And when I try to use you, now it's on your schedule and you're irritated. But I was here 4 times before, God. Why didn't you ask me that? We got to be willing to understand and trust God, and it's not about control, it's about faith. And I'm here to tell you, God can move and work in your life if you have enough faith to understand and to trust Him. That, guess what? God knows what He's doing. Newsflash, God is smarter than I am. He knows more than I know. He knows your future. He knows what you're going to face. He knows what you're going to go through. And you've got to trust Him and Be willing to let control go and let God do it. The third principle is the cloud, it often leads through the wilderness. Let's be honest, the cloud didn't lead them into easy living. It led them into sand, scarcity, and struggle. God could have taken the children of Israel and led them right into the promised land. If you look at the geographical region of that time, from Egypt to the promised land was not that far. It's like driving from Meadville to Pittsburgh, but it's like the airlines do it sometimes, but for some reason you got to go to Chicago first. Then you go down to LA, then you go down to Texas, and you come back. You take the long way around. But it really wasn't that far. But God led them through some things. He took them into a wilderness where they had to rely on Him for daily bread, daily water, daily guidance. They had to learn to rely upon God. The wilderness wasn't punishment, it was preparation. God, why do I have to go this route? God, why do I have to go through this? God, why do I have to do this? You ever ask God that? God, why? You ever ask God why? There's nothing wrong with asking God why. I ask Him all the time. God, well, why, God? Why are you doing this? Why won't you answer this prayer? Sometimes God leads us through some things, trying to teach us some things. And some of us assume that if life gets hard, we must be off course. But sometimes the cloud is hovering right over the hard place, saying, this is where growth happens. I've told you many times, you only grow in the hard place. You only grow in discomfort. You never grow in comfort. You only grow when you're discomfortable, when it's hard. The presence of struggle does not mean the absence of God. Somebody needs to hear that. The presence of struggle, if you're struggling, does not mean the absence of God. The problem is that many people get frustrated and quit while they're in the wilderness and decide to abandon God and solve it for themselves. You ever felt like that? I'll just do it myself. God, I'm tired of waiting. I'll figure this out myself. Or we never take time to even rely upon God. We make a decision, we don't even pray about it. We just do it because I know the answer. Then we get in trouble. I mean, think about Moses. Moses, at the end of the story, if you read the end of the story, they're going to the promised land. Guess what? Moses were forbidden from entering the promised land primarily because of his disobedience. Moses, this is the man that God chose at the beginning. This is the man that God raised up as a baby and saved his life. Said, you're the person I'm going to lead the children of Israel out of Egypt and to the promised land. But because of his disobedience, he didn't get to go to the promised land. What happened is that where God told him to speak to a rock to produce water, he struck it twice instead. God, that doesn't make sense, so I'm going to do it my way. God, a lot of times He does not do things the way we expect. He doesn't do it from human intellect. And I'm glad, because a lot of stuff would be messed up. God does it His way, when He wants it, and how He wants it. And the action failed to uphold to God's holiness before the Israelites and leading to direct punishment. His disobedience. Because he got tired of waiting for God. And you know the story that all those 40 years and over had to die off first? They never got to see the promised land. Why? Because along the journey they kept grumbling and complaining. They didn't want to obey God. They just got tired and they said, God, this doesn't make sense. And read the story of it, it's pretty neat. As soon as they left slavery, as soon as they left, they started complaining. Wait a minute. It wasn't too long ago, you were slaves, building bricks, harsh punishment. You were crying to be delivered. Now that you're delivered, now you're crying, I wish I was a slave again. Some people you can just never make happy. You got somebody in your life, you just can't never make them happy. That's the way they were with God. They were just never happy. So God says, enough. Enough. Guess what? I got a promise I'm going to do. I got a miracle. I got a blessing. But because of your disobedience, because you won't listen to me, and you will no longer trust me, I'm going to give it to somebody else. I got something I want to accomplish. I got a revival. I got a blessing. But because you will not trust me, I'm going to wait for somebody else and let them enjoy the blessing you should have had. Let me just ask a question. I wonder how many blessings we've missed in our life because of our attitude. Because of our complaining attitude and lack of faith. And God said, okay, I'll give that blessing to somebody else. Or God says, okay, that's fine. I mean, you ever had a kid that you just got irritated with, they just complained and whined, like, okay, you're not getting that treat today. You don't deserve it. I wonder if God does that to us sometimes. He wasn't allowed to enter into the promised land. Listen, sometimes the cloud will lead us through some things. If you ever go through a hard time, not if, but when, we've all been there. If you haven't gone through a hard time, you will. It's called life. Not that you're a bad person or you're sin. It's just called life. God allows us to go through the hard times for growth. How many of you can sit here and say, if I would not have gone through that, I would not be who I am now? I am what I am because of what I went through. And you know what? The greatest testimony that we can have is not a miracle. It's not a healing. It's simply that God kept me through the wilderness. But if you want him to keep you through the wilderness, you've got to trust him to lead you through the wilderness. Number 4, a principle about the cloud. You can't follow yesterday's cloud. Israel couldn't say, well, God moved last week, so we'll just keep going. The cloud moved yesterday, so I'm just going to keep heading in that direction. No, they had to wake up every day and look again. They had to wake up every day and say, okay, God, where do you want me to go today? Okay, God, what do you want me to do today? They cannot live on last week's blessing. If you got a blessing in last week's service, guess what? You need a new blessing today. If you got a new touch from God last week, you need a new touch today. You need to wake up every day. That's why the psalmist said, today is the day that the Lord hath made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. It's a daily decision when you wake up. It's like having an exercise plan. You decide to get in shape, and yesterday you ran a mile on the treadmill, and it's like, I'm good now. I'm good for a while. And you go eat your wings and pizza. Well, I did it yesterday. Now, to accomplish what you wanted to accomplish, guess what? You got to get up and do it again today. It's like we talked about the GPS. Guess what? If I take a trip, say I take a trip, I don't know, to South Carolina, and I put my GPS in, but now it's a year later, and I decide to take a trip and say, well, I'll just go back to the old. What if roads change? What if there's detours? You know how many times I have done that? I know the route. And you just punch in the GPS, and it's trying to take you some obscure direction. I've done this many times. That's stupid. I've been there before. I know if I go this road, I will get there. It was a few months ago, we were just heading, I can't remember what it was, we had to go down 79 and take the turnpike. I knew that. Been there thousands of times. But on the map, it just kept saying, turn off at Grove City. I mean, that is dumb. Why? That's taking us the long way. So I was like, forget this, I shut it off. Buzz right past the Grove City exit, go around the corner, brake lights as far as I can see. We sat there 2.5 hours. And the wife, I could just see her, I could feel her stare. Like, you should have listened to the GPS. We would have been there already. How many times have we done that to God? God, I know what I'm doing. I've been down this road many times, but God is trying to nudge you and direct you. Take a turn. But that don't make sense. There's something coming in your future I'm trying to protect you from. There's something I am trying to keep you from, but you keep ignoring my voice. And you run into a traffic jam every time, then you get frustrated. I can't go off yesterday's cloud. I can't go off yesterday's instruction. Every day I have to have a new direction from God because circumstances change. We can't live off old faith. What God said then is not what He's saying now. The cloud demands attentiveness. It requires daily obedience, daily surrender, daily listening. How do we follow the cloud today? Principle 5, we follow it through the Spirit of God. The physical cloud is gone. But God still leads His people. Jesus didn't say, memorize my teachings, even though that's good. What did He say? Follow me. Follow me. The Spirit is guiding. Sometimes it nudges. Sometimes restraining. Sometimes unsettling us when we get too comfortable. But the Spirit is always trying to lead and guide. You know what? I think many of you can point in moments when you felt an unexplainable hesitation or an unexpected peace in your life that changed everything. Maybe it was a job that you did not take. You can't explain why, but you just felt. You just felt. Maybe it was a relationship you got out of. A door that closed only to reveal another. You ever had something in your life when you went to do something and you're like, A lot of people call it you're self-conscious, but I call it the Spirit of God working in your life. And it can be simple as you go to buy a car and you just felt something ain't right with that. Listen to it. Maybe it's a relationship that you're in. And you just feel, maybe I need to get out of this thing. The young people, listen to me. When you go to get jobs and careers, listen to the voice of God. Listen to the voice of God. When you go to get into relationships and find that love that's forever, let God lead you and direct you. Listen to the voice of God. It will keep you out of a lot of trouble. It's not coincidence sometimes, it's the cloud. We need to train ourselves to hear the voice of God and be sensitive to His direction. Becoming sensitive to the Spirit of God involves cultivating a lifestyle of surrender, prayer, Bible study, being obedient. Every time you feel a little nudge, be obedient. Guess what? Sometimes it may not be anything. Yesterday we went down to Oakmont to babysit the grandkids, and I was getting ready to walk out of the house, and I just had this thought. bring your gloves and hat. So I told the wife, I said, maybe we just need to bring our gloves and hats. So we went back in, grabbed them, threw them in the back of the car. Didn't need them. The roads were fine, everything was good. But I just had a sense that maybe it was just me being weird, but that's a way that you develop listening. Because there's many times I ignored the voice and I regretted it. But you got to get in the habit of being sensitive and leading. And how do we do this? This is why I encourage you, read the Word of God every day. Every day. Get sensitive. Prioritize obedience. Respond immediately to the nudging. When you feel like, hey, I need to do this. I need to talk to that person. It may be something silly or it may not even be spiritually related, but you just feel like, hey, if you're at the store or something, and you're drawn to somebody, and you feel like, hey, I just need to say hi to that person. Do it. I'll make friends. I'll make friends with a raccoon. It don't matter. There's many times I'll talk to people in the store, and the wife's like, "Who's that?" Oh, he had a Steelers shirt on, so we're talking. And sometimes it's that simple. I'll see them in the store. They got a Steelers or Pirates or something. And say, "Hey, cool shirt. You a Steelers fan?" "Oh yeah." And we sit there and talk. And the wife's like, "Who is that?" Thing is, you never even get their name. You leave, I don't even know who that was. But you know what? Maybe they were in a bad mood. Maybe they had a bad day, and you just showing up and talking to them changed their spirit. That might be the only interaction you ever have. But guess what? You were just used to be blessed somebody. You may never see them again. It's moments like that I try to train and I try to watch. And I told you that when I go to the store, I like to get in and get out. But I try to learn and teach myself over time. Watch for opportunities to be used. You got to cultivate daily communion. You got to talk to God. You got to know the voice of God. You got to study the Word of God. There's many voices that are speaking in your life on a daily basis. You need to know the voice of God. That's why if you spend more time, I'm going to go there. If you spend more time on social media than you do the Word of God, you're going to miss the voice of God. I'm not saying social media is bad. I use it. But if you get your voice, if you get your influence from TikTok instead of the Word of God, you're going to miss it. God cannot talk to you unless you communicate with God. People say, well, I wish God would talk to me. He's got 66 books he wrote. Read it. He'll begin to talk to you. When I'm reading the Bible, I told you I'm trying to read it twice in a year. I started reading the Bible every day. I sit by my recliner, and I got my Bible, and I put a notepad. That notepad is there's pages. That when I'm reading the Word of God, something sticks out, like this sermon. This is where I got it from. Just last week when I was going to Numbers 9. It just spoke to me. And so I got my notepad and my notebook and I start writing. Sometimes I write notes, it's not from anybody else's business, it's just between me and God. I got notes for sermons that I'll never preach. It was for me. I told you before, when I can't wait to mow grass. I love getting on my tractor and it's just me, God, and nobody else. I preached more sermons on a tractor that I'll probably never preach anywhere else, just me and God. You ever been in the shower, taking a shower, and God just talking to you, and you feel it? Yeah, it ain't weird. You can have a worship service in the shower. Not a word about it. Nothing weird about it at all. It's just that your time with God, and God's trying to talk to you and deal with you and move upon you. You could go in the shower all depressed and you just think about the goodness of God. You come out all anointed, ready to fight hell with a water pistol. You ready to go. But you got to learn to take time to communicate, and He will put His Spirit upon you and begin to guide and to lead you on a daily basis. Let's go ahead and stand up as we close.